I'm Steve Johnson, News Director for theDove TV. Check out our other videos and visit our website at thedove.us. Thanks.
Well, every day we talk about the economy and just what is going on with it and who can you believe and what numbers are really real. I am really honored to have back with us today Daniel Celia. He's the CEO and president of Financial Issues Stewardship Ministries. He's worked for about 35 years as an entrepreneur and a businessman. He's owned his own business for 25 years and managed over $600 million. Perhaps you picked up some of his radio broadcasts because he is a board member and with his partnership with American Family Association. And he's now heard on over 300 stations, which has to be on over 300 stations across the nation. But today we want to talk to Daniel about the true state of the economy. Nice to see you, my friend.
Perry, thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see you. Well, I have to tell you, these numbers that are flying around out there, it just doesn't seem to be as good as everybody thinks it is. I don't want to be a pessimist, but how bad is it?
Well, we don't have to be a pessimist, or we just have to look at the numbers, and the numbers aren't good. They try desperately to put a good face on some bad numbers. People have become accustomed, Perry, to looking at the stock market and think that is reflective of what's going on in the economy. It isn't. They're two very separate things. And there used to be a day when the fundamentals of the economy, employment, poverty rate, wages, production rates, all those kinds of things were good for the stock market. That's how it's supposed to be. Well, that hasn't been the case since 2007, and the numbers aren't good. Just the numbers that we got out today we see the first-time unemployment claims today that come out every week, and those filing for first-time unemployments, and the headline is, well, they're down 3,000. But when you dig a little deep, you see that long-term unemployment, those that have been collecting unemployment benefits for more than 4 months, it's up 37,000, and we are still at 3 million of those long-term, or 3 million of those people, and these are people collecting unemployment now, not those that are unemployed that are not collecting unemployment. Still hanging around that 3 million mark. It hasn't budged since 2009. So the numbers aren't good. We look at consumer prices. They came out today. This does not include the two things that we use most of, energy and food. And that's up 0.1%. So people see that and they say, well, that's good. We're still not seeing much inflation. Well, the fact of the matter is, year over year, that number is 1.6%, which is still not reflective of real inflation, in my opinion. But here's the problem that we miss in these numbers. It also came out today that wage growth is up 0.4% in that same time period, which means that we're still very much in a deflationary mode as far as our wages go. It's 1.2% down just this month. So that is not good. We're at 1973 levels for our wages. And this economy, Perry, I know it is from a technical standpoint, but this economy is not in a recovery and has not been in a recovery.
All right. How vulnerable are we, Daniel? Because it feels this is a house of cards and that the stock market is in a bubble. If what you are saying is true, and I believe that it is, then all of these other numbers sooner or later are going to erupt. And what will that mean?
Well, it's going to mean something worse than the last recession that we saw. It's going to be a much harder fall this time. And we cannot keep up the pace of debt, money printing, and inflation, because we are seeing inflation. When wage growth is deteriorating, it has to come to a head. The question is, and it will, Perry, make no mistake about it. Now, whether it is this year, this quarter, next year, remains to be seen. But I would advise people that are viewing your program today that, look, if you're going to err on the side of caution. And let's assume that it's going to happen in the next 6 or 8 months and prepare for it. But it is going to have to burst. The bubble is going to burst. It has to. There's just no way we can maintain the pace of spending and debt without any real productivity in the economy.
Secretary Celia said yesterday that there is just no hard evidence that Obamacare is taking away jobs. What do you say about that? Well,
I say tell that to the 4 hospitals in Georgia that closed so far. Another one closed this week in relationship to Obamacare. Say that to the 26 states that are suffering from Medicaid, and we are going to see more and more hospitals closing. That's just one sector of the economy. And say that to the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, that again this week has put out numbers saying that we are going to lose jobs this week. It was talking about minimum wage. Last week, it said we're going to lose jobs directly as a result of Obamacare. So you can't use the CBO and say how great they are when it benefits your cause, and say they don't know what they're talking about when it's making your cause look pretty bad. So she's just totally wrong. We should all expect her to defend a program that she is very much involved in and has endorsed. So we shouldn't expect anything less. But it's wrong. I don't know what numbers she is looking at, but she's wrong. The fact of it is impacting the economy and jobs.
Daniel, I know on your show you talk about this a lot, but Christians now believers are beginning to feel the pressure of this in many ways. Maybe they're wrapped up in the problem of unemployment. Maybe they sense that something is going to collapse. I mean, there's a lot of fear and pressure out there, and the believers are beginning to sense this. How do you help them to maintain a financial balance with spiritual security?
Well, one of the things that I just talked about this morning in my second hour and with a caller. And, look, first of all, all of us believers need to get to a place where we are honoring God with what money he has blessed us with. Whether it's a lot or a little is irrelevant. And what I mean by that is, as we are investing, we should be looking at biblically sound investments. We cannot support abortion with our money because of certain mutual funds we're in, or pornography, or so many other things that would be offensive to God. This is his money, and he's entrusting us to be good stewards of it. And that would be the first place to start. The other thing is that I try to tell people is, look, we cannot get caught up in this worldly view that we've got to make all the money we can on our money when things are good. What we need to do is have a mindset of preservation of what God has given us. Now, Perry, I know, our viewers know, we're not called to bury our talents in the sand, and that's not what I'm talking about. But we're also not called to take risk at any cost in order to grow our money, because we have a sense of worship for our money and the growth of it. We need to be cautious. There's nothing wrong with having 50% of our money out of the markets, out of investments, and have it in cash, so that when the downturn happens, not if, but when the downturn happens, we've preserved a significant portion, while if I am wrong and the markets continue to go up, we have 50% of it working for us. And we cannot adopt this idea that we are going to be as greedy, for lack of better, and doing anything that we can do to grow what God has given us. Again, we're not to bury it in the sand, but we have to take precautions and be cautious about where we go and what we do with it. We shouldn't be buying into all the fear-mongering and conspiracy theories, but at the same time, we shouldn't be buying into the irrational enthusiasm that's going on either. We have to have a balance.
What would you say to believers? Because you probably have seen the cycles I have in managing a ministry, that it certainly reflects the economy. But there's an interesting twist to all of this. Believers, when they get into tough times, sense the values of ministry and begin to support them more, seemingly in a downturn. Can you add to that?
Well, you know what, Perry, I've been on a rant over this for 2 days on my radio program.
Well, I didn't mean to hit your nerve on that.
Yesterday, I had to apologize to my listeners and ask them not to send me all the bad emails that I get from people that think I'm being too harsh. I did get a lot of emails, but a lot of them thanking me for the rebuke. And so here's my theory. I had this discussion with someone from Gallup some years ago. I believe that Christendom is going to be bankrupt in 30 years. I believe that because we have raised up generations of people that have no concept of giving, how God's people are to do God's work here. That if we want to keep the church doors open, we've got to support it. We've got to give to that church. We have to do those things. And we're losing that. And I think, frankly, as more fear sets in, what I am noticing, it seems as though we are losing more and more of that. I'm getting conversations and phone calls and emails from people that are saying, market's up. I got to make all I can while I can make it. And they're laying aside the notion that we've got to release some of it and continue to give. People call me, Perry, still today, every day. They call and somebody will say, I'm starting out, I'm trying to save. I'm just torn between, do I tithe? Do I continue my giving? I can't afford it. And I always tell people, don't rob yourself of the incredible worship that giving is, number one. That's your biggest mistake you could make. So in the midst of your saving and trying to get by, we've got to continue to worship God with this thing that we hold very precious to us by giving some of it up and worshiping God with it and using it for his work. The great work of the ministries of Dove TV and other ministries and your church to make sure that the truth can be proclaimed along with the gospel. And I think that when we get in these rougher times, we sometimes feel as though we've got to hunker down with every dollar. Mm-hmm. And I'm very concerned about it. I'm very concerned about the state of Christendom. We need to be motivating people that their priorities as a instrument of God here on earth has to be to make sure that in times like these, that God's work stays intact and fully funded more now than at any other time in our nation's history.
Have we over materialized giving, Daniel? In other words, we've connected it to materialism instead of giving as an act of worship, which then results in other ways that God takes care of you. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a big bank account. He may return it to you in good health. I mean, you know the scenario there, but it appears that we have, in Christendom, we have made giving a result of materialism. Something fell through the cracks there, the miracle of God taking care of you.
Well, I think, number one, the prosperity preaching has exacerbated that problem as far as some things falling through the cracks. I said yesterday, what part of laying up our blessings in heaven and our riches in heaven don't we get? And I said, when I said that, I'm not making a case that we should be giving because of the treasures in heaven that we're laying up, though certainly that's important. But that we should be giving because we are going to get a seat at the master's table, and we're not to be concerned with what the master is serving us at that seat. And we do get caught up I want to, my wife and I want to lay blessings up in heaven, but at the grateful attitude that we're going to get a seat. We're going to get a seat in heaven at the Master's table. I do believe that you hit the nail on the head, Perry, that we're are we
Okay, I think we've had a little bit of a okay, are you there? Okay, sorry about that. We had a little bit of a Skype problem there. Let me encourage you to go to Daniel's site. It's financialissues.org. Check out the book, The Fear of Money, and check out his radio program, financialissues.org. Daniel Celia, he's CEO and president of Financial Issues Stewardship Ministries. You also could Google that. Daniel, I'm sorry for the connection. If you still hear me, at least audio, we appreciate you being on the program with us. We'll be right back.